Reading this morning is taken from the Message, Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 7. By this time, a lot of men and women of doubtful reputation were hanging around Jesus, listening intently. The Pharisees and religion scholars were not pleased at all. They growled, "He takes in sinners and eats meals with them, treating them like old friends." Their grumbling triggered this story. Suppose one of you had 100 sheep and lost one. Wouldn't you leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the lost one until you found it? When found, you can be sure you would put it across your shoulders rejoicing. And when you got home, call in your friends and neighbors saying, "Celebrate with me, I found my lost sheep." Count on it. There is more joy in heaven over one sinner's rescued life than over 99 good people in no need of rescue.
Our guest speaker this morning is Dorthea Swiftwolfe. Dorthea is the missing persons liaison with the Saskatoon Police Services, and she's here to talk to us this morning about missing and murdered Indigenous women, or MMIW if you prefer the acronym. Dorthea.
Like he said, my name is Dorthea Swiftwolfe. I am a Cree woman from Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation, and I am a mother to 5 handsome sons and 2 beautiful daughters. I also am a grandmother to 3 grandsons and 1 little angel, 1 little granddaughter. She's the apple of my eye. She looks like me, that's why she's spoiled. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are in Treaty 6 and say thank you for all of you for allowing me to come here today. Which, thank you. Tanigi, we say here, Tanigi in our language. In my current position, I am the Missing Persons Liaison Officer with the Saskatoon Police Service. I've done frontline in the city of Saskatoon for 25 years. And you're all wondering, how old is she? I know, I get that a lot. I'm just kidding. So in my career of 25 years of doing frontline, I always like to try to give you a little insight of what I do in a day. So I'd like you all to just close your eyes for a moment. I want you to close your eyes and picture that you just arrived home and your loved one is not there. A few hours go by and still nothing. They're not answering their cell phones, their phone as you've been calling it continuously. You start to call everyone you can think of calling: work, friends, family, hospitals, detention centers. And the reply is the same. They have not seen them. You decide, okay, I'm going to go out and search. And as you're driving around, you're praying you'll spot them at the local store, the coffee shop, anywhere, as long as you can spot them. The panic sets in. And that's when you decide, I need to get a hold of the police department or RCMP, if there is RCMP in your area, because there are rural communities where there's no detachments. As you get to the police station, you start making your police report, and you begin to struggle with the simple details: clothing, their daily routine, and what time you last saw them. Because I know many of us don't look at our loved ones in the morning when they leave to actually see what they're wearing. As you leave the police station, you head home, and you're driving and you're praying that they are there waiting for you, or that the police will locate them. 48 hours later, still no news, still hoping and praying for a safe return. A week later, still no news, hoping and praying, talking to anyone willing to help, trying to help you keep that story in the media. 6 months later, nothing has changed, no news. As you continue to search, handing out your posters, trying to keep the story in the media. 1 year later, no new leads, no new information. Struggling to stay positive and trying to keep the story in the media. Currently in the province of Saskatchewan, there's 122 missing persons and 8 unclaimed human remains. For every missing person, there is a minimum of 12 people that are affected by the person missing. That means right now there is 1,446 people struggling each moment of the day of not knowing. The term they use to describe this unknown world is ambiguous loss. And there's two types of ambiguous loss. Type 1 is a physical absence, meaning they're missing. And the way I describe it is I want you to imagine waking up every morning with a piece of your heart, your soul, your spirit missing. To wake up every morning not knowing and to be carrying that hurt. Type 2 is a psychological absence. This is when people suffer from Alzheimer's, dementia, and a coma because their body is here. But the emotional part of that person, that spirit, is no longer. And I always share the story of my grandmother. She had Alzheimer's, and it was hard for me. I would go visit her, and she didn't know who I was. I just wanted her to touch my face and say, "Oh, my girl, you're named after me." But she didn't even know who I was. In my career, I've worked with families who have current loved ones missing, loved ones who have been located deceased, and families with loved ones who have been deemed deceased, but no remains. I have bared witness to many different stages of hope because that's my primary position and my job is to support hope. Hope that the loved one is alive and safe. Hope that they are alive and not suffering at the hands of another. Hoping that the location of them deceased, just as long as they can be brought home. Many of us don't think of that. If you've ever had a missing loved one and you're searching and you're longing and you're waiting, that's the hardest part. All you pray for every day is that they come home. Or when a loved one is found deceased and someone is arrested and the family prays and hopes for justice. But if you've ever had to watch a family go through the court system to hear every little detail of the last moments of breath that that person had on this face of the earth, or to be told that your loved one is deceased due to the evidence, but there's no recovery, right? You have just words, "I'm sorry, your loved one is deceased, but we can't locate human remains." How does that family move forward? Because there'll always be that question. Are they sure? Do they know for sure? Maybe they're still alive just somewhere else. Now, as painful that is, currently there's over 1,200 Indigenous women and children missing in this country. And the numbers continue to grow. The question that needs to be asked is how and why has this been allowed to happen and nothing being done? In my own personal life, I march, I rally. Anytime anybody asks me to come out and present, I will. Simply because we need to be made aware. Because the majority of mainstream society believes that most of these women have lived or are currently living in a vulnerable lifestyle. This is not a lifestyle, right? It's not a lifestyle to be living below the poverty level, not to be able to feed your children, live in substandard housing. I've been in communities where you can't drink the water. I've known families where their children of 20 years have never had a drink of water from the tap. Or to live with racism. And one of the stories I always share is that I went through Catholic school. So this is kind of a different kind of service for me. I explained that already to a few people. I was like, do I stand? Do I sit? Do I pray? Do I fall on my knees? I'm not too sure. Right? And in the traditional realm which I practice, I'm not allowed to get up and run around either because I'm supposed to be praying and smudging. So this is enjoyable for me. But going through Catholic school, I remember as a young child, being called down to the nurse's office. This lady asks me to sit in a chair and she has these white gloves and 2 popsicle sticks. And I'm like, well, I don't know what she's gonna do, right? She starts going through my hair, looking for lice. And I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of hurting my heart. Every little child deserves love and affection. My mother would never push me away or do this to me to check my hair. But I have siblings, right? So if you have siblings in the same school, back then I think they thought if one child had it, every child had it. And they would announce it over through the whole school. Can Harry and Mavis please come down to the principal's office or the nurse's office? My brother and my sister. And then we'd all do the walk of shame, right? Walking through everybody in the whole school knew, oh, they must have lice, right? And I'm thinking, okay, so that's kind of degrading for a First Nations person to go through. And that's or addictions, right? Nobody chooses to be addicted. That's one of the things I always say, you never choose to be addicted. Life had led you up to those addictions. Something awful must have happened to you to pick up that bottle, to start using drugs, etc. So and lack of education, right? Have any of you, I taught school up north, that is my background. I don't make a teacher, obviously. I can't sit still. Me and my students ran around all over. Yay! Right, I was his favorite one. Right? But lack of education. I remember teaching school in a First Nations community and assuming it was like teaching here. And the kids looked at me and said, are we going to do our ABCs this morning? This is a grade 2 class. And I'm thinking, ABCs, you should be on your sight words already. But we were still doing ABCs. So this is a systematic issue, our murdered and missing women. This is a national crisis. When you look at the population per 100,000 First Nations women, who make up 4.4%, but 11.5% are missing and 16% are murdered. This is a crisis. People always ask me, what can we do? What can we do as individuals? I say we must make our lawmakers and our politicians address the issue and be accountable, not just move it aside and then bring it up again. As a nation, we need to work together. We need to work together for change. How do we go about change? Via media, letters, marches, etc. The vigils that we hold marches. There's two very important ones twice a year, February 14th and October 4th. And you will see me out there every year marching. I tell my children when I'm an old woman, because I do have 7 of them, somebody's going to look after me. You'll be pushing me in my wheelchair along the rest of our grandmothers. I hope they will, I should say. Tell them they have to listen. But as a nation, I said we need to work together. But most important, we must not allow the stories to go untold of the loved ones. They must not be forgotten. We have family members that have been waiting 35 years, 10 years, 5 years. And that's probably the hardest part. Can you imagine sitting there waiting every day? 25 years, 35 years? Because most of the statistics come from 1930 to 2015. And with the ones for Saskatchewan, they're from 1940 till 2015, 122 people. So out of that 122 people, a minimum of 12 people are affected per person. But the most important thing to remember is to bring back that humanity to the story. Because every missing person, every murdered person has worth, value, and they are loved. And that to remember someone is waiting. So next time you're out and about and you see the missing persons posters, please take a look. Because you have to remember someone's waiting for them to come home. Take a look at the websites. We have the Saskatoon Association of Chief of Police website. It has all the 122 missing persons along with the story. Please look at the RCMP database. That is for all the missing and murdered people across Canada. Thank you.
Let us go from this place then to be those who stand with. Go, and may the grace and peace of God go with you all. Amen.